Kia ora, good morning. So, I'm trying to keep myself busy, and I'm focusing now hardcore on building my future. I'm leaving everything that's happening to those who cause my injustice up to the gods, like I was instructed to by Odin, and I'm just hell bent on focusing on my foundation. I'm finally putting all my time and energy into just focusing on the foundation. I've walked away from Twitter. I only use Instagram for my vision board, to post my vision board. And now my YouTube is just going to be my storylines, my plot lines. Because I don't have a laptop and I've got a laptop, but I don't have Wi-Fi. My laptop's not working. I'm using my YouTube to document all my thoughts, and YouTube has become like my secretary. And then eventually, when I get justice and I can leave, like, I'm taking all my social media down. I'm taking everything off, and I'm taking all my social media down, and then I can take my notes and put them all in order, and then work on my scripts and stuff, because then I'll have a working laptop, I'll have Wi-Fi, I'll have a writing crew, I'll be building everything. And people don't realise how exhausting it is to do alchemy. And conjuring when you're doing alchemy is more exhausting than casting, because casting is to place the intent, it's to set the intention, but conjuring means that you have to gather it from out of nowhere. You have to create what it is that you're wanting out of it from nothing and turn it into something, and that requires a lot of brain power and a lot of energy. And because I'm still dealing with a bit of pain from the other day from my hernia site, and that, I'm taking it easy. And while I'm taking it easy and just trying to recharge my batteries and that, I've been just watching a lot of free movies on YouTube. And I don't know if it's just me, whether it's just something I've noticed over the last few months, but I'm finding it really, really hard to watch movies now, because I'm starting to see how bad the acting is, how bad the storylines are, how fake everything is. I'm watching these movies with really famous actors in them. Some of them are ones that were at the movies, that you could go and see at the movies, and some of them are independent films that were never at the movies but still have famous people in them. And it's like, I've tried to watch 4 just this morning, and I've stopped watching them after like 10, 15, 20 minutes in, because they're so bad that it's become irritating. I'm watching movies with very famous people in them. These people are multimillionaire actors with multiple homes and that, living in Hollywood. And, you would know all of their names if I said them. Some of them have won awards. And I'm sitting there watching them thinking, oh my God, they're really, really not good at what they do. Like, they're not, there's no, oh, it's like, are they just making these films to help friends out? Or is it because they're not getting any big contracts in Hollywood, so they're doing these little independent ones? Because I think it's fantastic when famous actors do these little independent films and that, to help script writers out, and for whatever their reason for doing them. But I can't figure out if it's because the acting is bad or the script is bad. Because when I look at, what it says the movie's about, it's like, okay, that sounds pretty good. But then you hit play, and it's like, why did they make this movie? Like, who thought it was a good idea to put millions into this movie when when it's really bad? There's some actors that you know, like Dame Judi Dench, like Denzel Washington. If they're in the movie, you know it's going to be good. Like, I will watch a movie with them, hands down, without even looking to see, the synopsis of the movie, because you know that these are actors who wouldn't act in anything bad, even if it is a little independent British movie in that. But I've just watched some famous British actors, with the exception of I think she's a Dame, Dame Joan Plowright. I just watched a cute little thing with her that I will eventually go back to, but it was kind of like it was everyone else around her that kind of pulled the movie down and made me lose interest really fast. I'll try and get back into it. But what I was noticing was how obvious it were that these people were acting, and that was annoying me. And I'm sitting there thinking, as someone who's going to have a movie production company, Fairyland Productions, as someone who's going to be making a lot of movies with the kids in that, am I going to be a bit of a hard taskmaster in the fact that when these movies hit the screens in our streaming service, because I'm going to have a movie theatre at the foundation at Firetown, I don't want anybody thinking that these kids and these actors and that are reading off a script. I want them to feel what it is that these kids are acting, and feel what it is that our characters are, where they're just swept away, where they're not focusing on, oh my God, that New York accent is so bad. I just tried to watch one with Owen Wilson and Jennifer Aniston, and this, I don't know who she is in real life, but the New York accent was so bad that it was irritating. And Jennifer Aniston was horrendous. There was no, it's like and I mean no disrespect to any of them, but when you're making millions from acting, you want to be able to see that person on screen and believe they are the character. And where they believe they are the character, but it's like she just turned up and recited a script and that was it. It's like you could see where they were acting the line and where the line was ending. There was nothing flowing between the conversations. There was no. It was so, and action and cut and action and cut, that there was no flow, and it was annoying me. And I thought, oh my God, like, I'm going to be making movies, and we're going to be making movies for TV. I actually came up with an idea for one based on this one I'm talking about in New York, where where a woman's mistaken for a escort. Like, kind of like, yeah, where through cross lines and cross paths, a woman is mistaken for an escort. She thinks she's going on a date. He thinks she's an escort, but she's the wrong person to him and he's the wrong person to her, sort of thing. But I just, I thought, I'm going to be making movies. And I want, I know that we're never going to be winning Oscars or Emmys or anything like that, because we're going to be our own little private world where we are. So, apart from our streaming service and all that sort of thing, you're going to be seeing our movies at the movie. And if you come and rent our DVDs and all of that sort of thing, we'll win Northies in our own little piece of the world where I build Firetown. But we're not going to be, billions of dollars and big budgets and all that sort of thing, because we're just a creative arts school. And I'm just creating schoolwork for the kids. But that doesn't mean to say that as the one who's creating all these movies and starting the scripts off and writing these storylines and that to turn into movies and video games and TV shows and all of that sort of thing, it doesn't mean to say that I should only be putting in a mild amount of effort. I want this all to be about learning and fun and giving the kids experience and, you know, giving them a taste of what they think their futures might be in that. But it's like, if I'm signing my name to everything, and my name is going to be on every single thing that gets created, whether it's a book, a TV show, a kids' TV show, a TV movie, an actual movie, a video game, any of it, my musicals, my name is going to be on every single thing that's created, because I'm the one with the magic wand. I'm the fairy godmother. I'm the one that's going to be taking stuff from nothing and turning it into something for the kids and my staff and that to enjoy and participate in, that we then let the rest of the world enjoy the fruits of our labour. So if I'm putting my name to it, I want my name to carry weight. I want my name to be, you know, like platinum as far as my reputation in that, because I don't want to put anything on the screen, one of my horror movies, and people be like, oh my God, that was embarrassing. They didn't even try. And that's what I just kind of feel like I've just been watching. People who turned up, took the money and didn't even try. Were they owing friends favours who wrote scripts or something? Were they doing it as a favour for a friend? Were they doing it because they believed in the story? And that's what I'm saying. It's like, did they need the money, or were they bored? Because it shows. And that's sad, because I grew up in the 70s and 80s and 90s when movies were at their peak. Gen Xers, we got the best of all the movies, because we got the movies our parents grew up with from like the 50s, 60s and 70s. And then, you know, we enjoyed the best of the 70s, 80s and 90s. And then everything just went downhill from there. And now there's very few movies that are out now that are selling out the box offices and stuff. And I might only be a tiny, teeny little theatre in my little corner of the world at Firetown when I get to build my foundation. But I want people, like, I want my tickets to be sold out, because they're running to the theatre when they know I've brought out another horror movie. I want my movie theatres to be packed every day of the week, but for like Halloween especially, I want tickets to be sold out. I want people running to see what we've made next. And the only way I'm going to have that is if I make sure that whatever I put my name to is worth its weight in gold or platinum. And so that's why I spend so much time and so much effort making sure that I get every single little thing right, from the name to, you know, the theme and all that, which is why I'm constantly changing names of things, moving characters around, adding this, removing that, because I want, as soon as those kids start speaking their lines, or the actors start speaking their lines, or singing those songs, or walking out on stage, or as soon as the camera turns on and that TV show's been made or that video game's been played, I want the customer, the client, the consumer to be carried away and not even, you know, when I was a kid, when I was younger, I used to sit in the movie theatre and be so taken away by what was on the screen, I would forget I was at the movies. And then the lights would come on and the curtain would close and that, and you'd feel kind of disorientated, because it was like, oh crap, I forgot I was here. That's what I want. That's what I need to bring back, because that's what's missing now. And I think it's like actors have gotten too spoilt. So if it's not big budget, they don't even seem to try anymore. You've got too many people that are getting money to make these scripts where, I mean, in my opinion, I should have been a movie critic, is a waste of money. I tried to watch one this morning where, like 15, 20 minutes in, I'm like, why did they make this? What was the point of it? If you're going to make a movie, it should be because you believe in the movie, because you believe in the script, because you believe that what you're putting on the screen is worthy of entertaining people to the point where they want to pay you money to watch you entertain them. And that just doesn't exist anymore. They're, they're taking big franchises like Star Wars and that, and they've murdered them. They've murdered Star Wars. Star Wars was my generation, and I've watched Disney and that murder Star Wars. Star Wars is now a joke, and I'm offended by that. Disney princesses and Disney prince, and you see that's the other thing. Where's the Disney princes? Where are the movies where it's about the Disney prince? Why can't it be about the Disney prince? And that was one of the things I said when I wrote Lucian's Dragon. If I'm ever lucky enough to turn this into a movie, he's going to be our version of a Disney prince, where it's all about him. And same with the Dear Satan clause. It's all about Satan and not even so much about Erin, the little girl who writes the letter to Satan. It's there's not enough representation for little boys out there. The boys are always the side characters or the love interests. But little boys need heroes. Little boys need someone to look up to and inspire to be. And Disney just focuses all on the girls. And I don't like that, because I've got sons. And with the exception of like Toy Story and Toy Soldiers, is it? There's very, very little out there for little boys. And so that's one of the reasons why I wrote Lucian's Dragon. That's why I changed, when I wrote The Porcelain Rabbit, the very first book I wrote, that's why I made him a main character. It's why when I changed the Quantum Menace from Olivia to Ben, the whole world of storylines and movie themes and that opened up for me, because there's not enough representation for boys to be the inspiration out there. There's not enough representation in movies where the little boy is the hero, where the boy is the one in the animated movie, where the boys want to buy their toys and the boys want to dress up as them for Halloween and that sort of thing, and have themed birthday parties, and that's what I'm providing. Yes, we've got Harry Potter, but Harry Potter is surrounded by, other people, boys and girls, and he's the hero, but he's not a Disney prince or a Disney princess. He's not in the same category. Sci-fi is different. Sci-fi, fantasy, fairy tale is different. I'm talking about traditional family, like Disney style, Pixar style, DreamWorks style movies. See, I grew up with the Goonies and E.T. and that, where it was all about the boys, and Gremlins and Back to the Future, and there was good representation for boys out there to be the heroes, and that just doesn't exist anymore. And so that's why I decided to keep, when I had to change everything about Lucian's Dragon, I kept him, because I was originally going to make him, after my ex left, a girl, make her Anahita, but it didn't feel right, it didn't sit right. And then when I made him Lucian instead, it's like everything fell into place. But needless to say, watching these 3 movies, I can see why they're free, but I don't know why they were made. These aren't the sort of movies where I would ever say to my sister and that, oh my God, you have to watch this movie. Where there's like, one of my favourite British little independent movies is Saving Grace. And it's this woman about her husband dies and leaves her in a ton of debt she didn't know she had. So she teams up with this guy to grow weed, because like she's like an expert when it comes to horticulture. And, she has this greenhouse, and she's like really famous for like really well known and respected for her knowledge of, you know, like plants and growing them in the greenhouse and that. So they come up with the idea to make money by her selling top quality weed. And I love that kind of thing, you know, and like the Calendar Girls, that's a brilliant movie. Those sort of little movies are little independent movies that are absolutely brilliant, that you remember. And on a rainy Sunday, you know, if it's on, you think, oh, I'm going to give that a watch. I quite like that movie, you know, and it's sweet and it gives you a bit of a chuckle and it like it leaves you with that warm feeling, you know, and they don't make them anymore. When I sat down to watch these ones that I'm talking about this morning, that's what I was thinking. Oh, maybe it's going to be like Saving Grace or The Calendar Girls, or you know, one of these little lovely little independent movies that I've seen in the past. I know Calendar Girls did quite well at the box office, I think, because it was based on true stories. There's another one. Oh gosh, I can't remember. I can't remember the name of it. I love it, and I might be wrong, but I think it had Bob Hoskins in it, and it might have been made up north, like here up north. I can't remember the name of it. I'm going to try and remember the name of it. I'll try and look it up. If I look up like all the Bob Hoskins movies that he was in, it's bound to be there, but it was about a shoe factory that was going to shut down and they needed a way to keep the shoe factory open. So they came up with the idea of designing shoes for drag queens. And so they started making shoes for drag queens because it was about how this drag queen, he was having trouble, you know, finding gorgeous, sexy, beautiful shoes to wear. Because, like, you know, if you're trans, you should be able to wear. Because, like, and I know what it's like because I'm 6 foot tall. I'm a biological woman. I'm a size 9 shoe, and it's really hard for me to find beautiful, nice shoes in my size, because you're expected to have little feet. And if you've got little feet, then you can wear all the nice, sexy shoes and boots and all of that. But so I have the same problem as drag queens in that. Finding really nice shoes in that to fit is one of the reasons why I always said I will make my own shoes. I've come up with I've invented a shoe accessory that I'm hoping, if I do it right, would become quite the collect. You know, people will want to collect them like Pandora stuff for charms and all that. It's an accessory to doll up your shoes to make them look really nice. And so, and I always said, like, I can't find the shoes that I want to wear in my size, so I'm probably going to have to end up like making my own shoes and working with a shoe company to make my own range of shoes in that. And I would sell them to the trans market because it is really hard finding shoes when you've got non-petite feet. If you want to wear a nice knee-high boot or thigh-high boot, or you know, a nice sexy heel or something, it's impossible finding them in your size. Most shoe companies only go up to an 8, and so I would make them for, you know, because you've got some trans people who are like a size 15, a size 16, you know, so why not? And that's what this movie was about. And it ended up saving, but because it was dealing with drag queens and that, I'm pretty sure it was like based in like Northern Town, this sort of thing was frowned upon. And you know, it was like basically how the factory stood by the drag queens and the drag queen stood by the shoe factory, and it ended up keeping the shoe factory in business while making the drag queens look absolutely gorgeous. I just can't remember the name of the movie. There was another one that had Kelly LeBrock in it, where she was teaching these women how to have like etiquette classes. These little independent movies, they were sweet. They had the right people in them. They were movies that, even though I can't remember the name, I remembered the movies because they were sweet, and you could tell that they all enjoyed making them. Like you could feel it. And watching these movies now, and most of them sort of have been made within the last 20 odd years, it's gone. So what's happened? Have actors just stopped caring? Have actors just stopped acting? And it's all about just showing up for the money now? Or have scripts just gotten that bad? And who's funding these scripts to be turned into a movie? If you're turning the movie off after 10 minutes, that's not a good sign for the actor or the script. And I've literally just turned off 5 movies because it lost me. That's why, like with Becoming Spellbound and The First Sign, the movie captivates you as soon as it starts. You see Abigail being taken off to be executed and, hung from the hanging tree, and you see Amber being chased by a Bizu, and, like it captivates you the second the movie starts. I've got goosebumps. And the one thing I'm never, ever, ever going to do, which really annoyed me with this last movie, is that you could tell that actress was, I don't know if she's from New York or real life, but her accent was so fake that it was annoying. It was irritating. It's like, could they not find a real actress? Or if she was from New York, she was over accentuating her accent to the point where it just sounded fake. So in my movies, if the character's from New York, the actor's going to be from New York. With whoever plays Roisin in The First Sign, she's going to be Irish. If I've got to send casting directors and that over to these countries to put out these auditions to find the right character actors in that for my movies, then that's what I'm going to do. I'll let them audition on Zoom. I'll fly them out, sort of thing. But I want everything to be true to character. I want my German actors to really be able to speak German or French or Russian or Hungarian or Polish or whatever. I want the accents to be spot on. I want the actors to become the character, to feel the character, so that when we go, cut, that's a wrap, they have to shake their head and wake themselves up out of it, because they forgot that they were, Bob playing the movie of Joe. They thought they were Joe and had to be reminded when we shouted cut that they're Bob. So yeah, I'm really disappointed, because I'm Gen X and I grew up at the best time for making movies. I got to see Star Wars get created. I got to see Star Trek. I got to see Gremlins and Goonies and The Dark Crystal and The Labyrinth and Fraggle Rock, and I got to see the best of everything that TV and movies and that had to offer as far as creativity was concerned. And even like the A-Team and Bionic Woman and $6 Million Man and Charlie's Angels, and that might not have been, the best acting and that, but the way that it was presented, the way that these storylines were, it kept you wanting to go back to the TV every week and go to the movies every week. I was poor, but my parents always found the money for my sister and I to be able to go to the movies, because the movies were a huge part of my parents' life, my dad's life especially. And then, of course, when video machines came about and we got to bring the entertainment into the home, I mean, that's when my dad really kicked it off for me. I didn't realise back then, when they were giving us money to go to the movies, even though we couldn't afford it, if we say, can we go to the movies this weekend, they always found the money. And at I remember at the military camp, I remember Muppets Take Manhattan being taken on the bus when I was 5 years old to see Muppets Take Manhattan, I think it was. And then Watership Down and Enter the Dragon when I was at the military camps, I would have been 6 or 7. And then when we moved to live in, it like just the whole world opening up with like all of it. And it inspired me to want to make films and make TV shows. And my childhood inspired me to want to make the kind of entertainment that I had growing up that children deserve, and families and people and that deserve now that I had growing up. The the Gen Alphas and the Gen Zs and all of that, they haven't had the luxury of what I had, and what I had is what people are crying out for, and that's what I'm going to give to them. And I think I'm going to be a bit of a hard taskmaster, because I'm not going to let people just turn up and read the script. I want them to be the script. I want them to act like they're being chased by real bloody zombies. I want them to, I want you, I want to show the fear. I'm not going to be like Drew Barrymore's mother, where I rip the wings off butterflies in order to make them cry. But if we've got to do that scene 1,000 times, no, I'm not that cruel. We'd just come back to it. I'm so disappointed. I thought, well, I'll just sit and I'll rest today and I'll watch these 3 movies. And I haven't been able to get through one after about 15 minutes. And it was a wake up call, because it's like, I'm going to be making films. We're going to be making movies. And I would be embarrassed and ashamed and humiliated if somebody turned my movie off after 10, 15 minutes. Because then I've wasted money, and I don't like wasting money, and I've wasted talent. So it's like, that's what I'm asking. The chicken or the egg, which comes first? Is it the bad script, or is it the bad acting? So I have to make sure that everything I put my name to is worthy of someone wanting to pay out money to rent the movie, to buy the streaming service, or to buy a ticket to go and see it at our tiny little theatre. No pressure then. But that's why I'm constantly tweaking things and changing the name of things. Because once it goes down on paper and is turned into a script for me to hand to script writers and the actors, and I'll probably be helping direct a lot of them. I want to be proud of everything that we turn out. But you have to think, I think it's great that they're offering to put these movies up for free, but if you're spending those kind of budgets with these sort of actors' names on it to make a movie, and it's only going on YouTube for free, I consider that a downgrade for the actors. I mean, it's it's great if, I think that these famous actors and that should give back to independent films. I really do. They should be performing on Broadway and giving back to the independent filmmakers and stuff like that. But if you're going to be in an independent film that's going to end up free on YouTube, does that mean that your acting should be less than if it was going to be at a Hollywood premiere red carpet event? Because that's what I saw. There's movies that some of these actors have been in that I absolutely love. As they've been in some fantastic movies that I absolutely loved, that everyone would know the names of if I said them. TV shows and that as well, that made them famous. And yet there's these little independent films, I've just watched them and where they weren't even trying. And I expect more from names like that being in independent films. If anything, they should be giving it their all. It's a constant reminder of how lucky they are that they get to be Hollywood celebrities and award winners and, given titles like Dame. So they should give back. But in giving back, their performances were lackluster. Almost like they were only showing up for the paycheck. And that's my view of it. And I just think that some of these movies would have been better off being made with complete unknowns, because at least the unknowns would have been grateful for what they were being paid for, and they would have at least put in the effort, because it would have been, this could be my big break sort of thing. And so they would have tried. So they should have just removed all the famous people altogether and just put unknowns in. And then if it doesn't do well, you can say, well, small budget, unknown actor, some people don't like that sort of stuff. But when you've got famous, multi-millionaire actors acting in these movies where you're turning it off after 10 minutes because the acting is so bad and the script is so bad, that's a problem. So probably the biggest budget movies I'm going to be making will be if we make Lucian's Dragon into a film with a little help from my friends, because that's going to be like Narnia, and like The First Sign. We don't really need a big budget for things like, when we turn The Night of the Black Sun into a movie and that, because it's basically just as long as it's 80s stuff. It'll be like my period piece, the Angel of Crimea, the Mary Seacole story. The period, like getting hold of the stuff from that period will probably be where most of the cost is. But I'm trying to prove that you can make a movie on a budget and make it look like it has a big budget, where all you've done is, with a little help of the occasional bit of CGI, you've just been forced to use your imagination like they did in Star Wars. If they could make Star Wars with no budget before CGI and all that was a thing, then I can make the Conception of Heracles, to Quantum Menace 3, the Conception of Heracles. So that's why I want to, with my special effects and cinematography and camera work and all that, I want to bring these people out of retirement. The ones where it was their job for 30 years, 40 years, working in TV and movies and that, back in the day. I want to get them out of retirement. The seamstresses and, the set designers and all that, I want to get them out of retirement. I want to have these people in their 60s, 70s, 80s who knew everything about the industry, costume design and that, get them out of retirement, get them to come and teach these kids and be mentors for the kids. So give them the advice, because they lived it, they breathed it, like Frankie, remember, with the robot? Frankie with the robot. He was a cameraman in Hollywood. And yeah, he'd seen it all. I want people like him. So yeah, get them out of people that worked with Ray Harryhausen, or worked with people who worked with Ray Harryhausen, where the knowledge was passed down. People who started with Aardman. People who worked in the games industry when, Codemasters was just making a name for itself. And everybody sort of was just starting to know who George Lucas was. And I want all those sort of people. I'll even build, I said this ages ago, I'd even build like a little retirement village so that, you know, because they'd be in their 70s and 80s and that, they could have their own little retirement village with like retirement little flats and that, because I'm going to have nurses and that on staff anyway. And then they could just come to work, because I know that there's people out there who have long retired from the industry who are basically just sitting waiting to die, who still have so much to give these kids, whether it's in woodwork or as a blacksmith, or, you know, as a seamstress or a baker or a, you know, cameraman or set designer or whatever, where it's like, hey, come and spend a couple of hours with us a day where you'll get paid and you don't have to worry about anything, and you can be a teacher instead. Don't let what you know die with you, pass it on, that sort of thing. So if I have to build like a little retirement village where they have the rails and special baths and that, so that they can turn up for a couple of hours every day and impart their wisdom onto the kids, you know, in the realms of music and video games and TV and movies and that, then I will absolutely do it. I'm building my own little world in my little corner of the world. I just need to wait to find out where my little corner of the world is. So, helicopter. So, yeah. So I'm going to go. I'll find the name of that Bob Hoskins movie and the Kelly LeBrock one, and I'll put it in the link in the description box below. But lovely little movies. And then there's Saving Grace. And yeah, Calendar Girls is just lovely. So I will speak to you later. Ka kite anō.